Most people today are living in a quiet state of failure, not because they aren't smart enough or lack opportunities, but because they lack mental strength, a solid inner force to resist temptation, fear, and endless comparison. They wake up each day, scroll endlessly through social media, drown in envy, and then wonder why they feel so tired and lost. The truth is, comfort is making us weak. We avoid pain, yet live in constant suffering because we lack challenge, because we play life too safe. We've forgotten that real strength is forged in adversity, but the ancient Stoics understood this long ago. Without social media, without self-help books, they lived resilient lives guided purely by their philosophy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." In this video, you'll discover 8 brutal Stoic rules powerful enough to forge you into an unbreakable person in a chaotic world. Number 1. Embrace discomfort like a friend. Welcome discomfort like a close friend. At first glance, this may sound counterintuitive in today's world, where comfort is hailed as the ultimate reward, but that very comfort is quietly eroding our minds, weakening our spirit, and making people increasingly afraid of the ordinary challenges of life. In contrast, Stoicism teaches us something radically different. Pain is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Modern society confuses happiness with fleeting safety. From social media to life's conveniences, everything pushes us to avoid discomfort. But that's a subtle trap, because when you go through life without ever clashing with adversity, you don't grow, you merely survive. The Stoics knew well, we only truly grow in adversity, not in ease. When everything is smooth, you don't get a chance to forge your will. But when hardship strikes, rejection, loss, or delay, that is when your mind is shaped. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just a philosophical quote, it's a guide for living. When you face pain instead of avoiding it, you're turning it into fuel to move forward. There is no better mental training than choosing to enter what makes you uncomfortable. Every time you do that, every time you sit down to focus when your mind wants to scroll TikTok, every time you show patience instead of exploding in anger, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your inner strength. Seneca, one of Stoicism's pillars, once advised people to deliberately live through hard days, eat plainly, wear old clothes, and sleep on a hard floor, not to punish the body, but to train the mind. He understood that when we become familiar with hardship, life can't break us. Because we've prepared, not just for ideal conditions, but for the worst. Discomfort, when approached the right way, is a mirror reflecting our true nature. It doesn't lie. When you're exhausted, under pressure, misunderstood, or lonely, that's when you truly see who you are and who you're becoming. And if you have the courage not to turn away in those moments, you'll discover this truth. Pain is the training ground of the spirit. Avoiding small pain today only postpones a much greater pain tomorrow. No one escapes adversity forever. But the person who has trained for it, who has become familiar with cold, with solitude, with silence, with rejection, will walk into crisis with a completely different posture, calm, clear, and unshaken. And if you're wondering, where do I start? The answer is simple. Choose something small but uncomfortable and do it. Take a cold shower. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. Have the difficult conversation. Don't wait to be ready. It's by doing these things daily that you become ready. Because the only way to become unshakable is to stop running from the things that make you uncomfortable. Discomfort is my training ground. That's not just an affirmation. It's the lifestyle of a spiritual warrior. Number 2, stop being owned by your emotions. In the modern world, we're taught that emotions should be indulged and satisfied the moment they arise. Feeling sad? Scroll through TikTok. Feeling lonely? Buy something. Feeling down? Hide on Netflix. We react like machines, always looking for a way to escape uncomfortable emotions, instead of understanding and mastering them. The Stoics saw things very differently. To them, pain is necessary, not the enemy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, it's not the world that makes you suffer, it's your reaction to it. Negative emotions have no control over you, unless you give them that power. The Stoics didn't run from pain. They ran straight into it with eyes wide open. They understood that every negative emotion is a test, and you have a choice. Become its slave, or use it to grow stronger. You want real growth? Then step into discomfort, because it's in adversity, when comfort disappears, that you finally see who you are. When you're rejected, you learn resilience. When you're forced to wait, you build patience. When you feel empty, you learn how to fill yourself from within. Stoicism isn't about pretending not to feel. It's about understanding your emotions, accepting them, but not being ruled by them. Seneca used to sleep on the floor, eat little, and wear ragged clothes, not because he was poor, but because he was training his mind. He was sending a message to himself: I can survive anything. When you deliberately face hardship, you stop fearing the future. You build something stronger than any muscle, your will. Think of it this way: negative emotions aren't red alarms, they're mental weight training. Every time you choose to sit with them instead of running away, you become more grounded. You see your true nature in the mirror of discomfort. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your mirror. And if you keep avoiding it, you're planting the seeds for even deeper pain later, when real adversity strikes and you're not ready. But if you make the effort, little by little, to face what scares you, you'll realize you're not as breakable as you thought. So starting today, don't overlook the small things. Take a cold shower, call the person you've been avoiding, sit alone with yourself without reaching for entertainment. Each of these small actions is a brick in the foundation of an unshakable spirit. Because the only way to become unstoppable is to stop running. Think life should be fair? You'll burn out fast. In the next section, we'll break down one of the most common illusions that traps people in frustration, disappointment, and self-destruction: the belief in perfect fairness. Don't miss it, because the truth there might free you from years of pointless complaints. Number 3, stop expecting fairness. Don't expect fairness. It sounds harsh. But to the Stoics, it's not a complaint. It's a liberating truth. Because the truth is, life doesn't owe you anything. There's no law in the universe that guarantees you'll be treated rightly, kindly, or fairly. The sun rises and sets, rain falls whether you're ready or not, and injustice happens even when you've done nothing wrong. The world doesn't revolve around you, and there's no cosmic ledger keeping track of the fairness you deserve. What causes most people pain isn't their circumstances, it's the irrational expectation that life should be fair. They believe that doing good should bring rewards, that loving someone wholeheartedly should mean being loved in return, and that hard work will always be recognized. But fairness isn't a natural law. It's a human-made illusion designed to make us feel better in a chaotic world. And when reality fails to match that illusion, people break. Stoics are different. They don't expect fairness. They prepare for adversity. They train their minds to face pain, loss, betrayal, and change. To them, these aren't surprises. They're inevitable parts of life. And it's that preparation that makes them unbreakable. Imagine an athlete running in the rain. The first one hopes for clear skies, and when the rain comes, he stops, frustrated, complaining, blaming fate. But the second is different. He trained in the rain, mentally prepared for the worst days. He's not faster, not stronger, but he's more resilient, and that's what helps him go farther. Life is no different. Many people are only ready when things go smoothly. But life doesn't send a warning before the storm. It throws pressure, failure, and pain at you exactly when you're least ready. And in that moment, your ability to endure determines whether you push forward or collapse. The Stoics understood this. They didn't beg for an easy fate. They trained their minds to face any circumstance, not to avoid suffering, but to stand unbroken in the midst of it. So, don't wait for the skies to clear. Train yourself to grow stronger in the rain. Life is no different. Many people are only ready when things go smoothly. But life doesn't send a warning before the storm. It throws pressure, failure, and pain at you exactly when you're least ready. And in that moment, your ability to endure determines whether you push forward or collapse. The Stoics understood this. They didn't beg for an easy fate. They trained their minds to face any circumstance, not to avoid suffering, but to stand unbroken in the midst of it. So don't wait for the skies to clear. Train yourself to grow stronger in the rain. A real-world example. During the global pandemic, many people lost jobs, loved ones, even their sense of purpose. Some sat still, asking, "Why me?" a question rooted in the demand for fairness. But others, instead of demanding fairness, faced reality, accepted it, and acted. They changed careers, learned new skills, and rediscovered their worth through hardship. They weren't strong because life was kind to them. They were strong because they didn't need life to be kind. That's the essence of mental strength. It doesn't come from being favored. It comes from not breaking when you're not. When you stop expecting the world to be fair, you stop being stunned when it's not. You act with clearer judgment because you're no longer wasting energy on resentment. This doesn't mean becoming cold, numb, or detached. On the contrary, you still live with dignity, still act kindly, still love deeply, not because you expect something in return, but because it's the life you choose. Stoics don't live by reaction, they live by values. So when betrayed, they don't let it turn them bitter. When hurt, they don't use it to hurt others. Instead, they turn pain into fuel, build skills to grow stronger, and endure without surrendering their integrity. That's the core of Stoicism, radical responsibility. Not because you caused every injustice, but because you alone are responsible for your response to it. Freedom, to the Stoic, isn't something handed to you. It's something you create through every conscious choice, every thought, every action. And in an unfair world, That is the one kind of freedom no one can take from you. Number 4, focus on what you can control. Let go of the rest. One of the most fundamental and ruthless truths of Stoicism is this: the world is not yours, but your mind is. In a chaotic, ever-changing and uncertain universe, Stoics don't try to bend reality to their will. They train themselves to respond well, act rightly, and live with integrity, no matter what happens. True strength doesn't lie in how many people you can influence, how many events you can dictate, or how many outcomes go your way. It lies in your ability to master yourself, how you think, how you choose, and how you respond. Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people out there suffer not because of what happens to them, but because they try to control what isn't theirs to control. They cling to outcomes, try to please everyone, predict the future, and resist reality. And in that misplaced effort, they are consumed by anxiety, anger, and helplessness. They become victims of the world instead of masters of themselves. The Stoic knows that to stand firm in this world, you must draw a clear line between what is within your control and what is not. You don't control the weather, the market, someone else's mood, or a sudden illness. But you always control your mindset, your attitude, your choices, and your response. When you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change, and instead pour all your effort into what you can own, you'll start to feel the restoration of personal power. You become calmer, more disciplined, and more focused. Even in the middle of chaos, you stand steady like a captain in a storm, not because the sea is calm, but because you know how to steer your own ship. This isn't theory. It's a practical life skill. It's a move you can make every day, every hour. Just pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. No judgment, no complaining, no hesitation. Just come back to yourself and move forward. When you live by this principle, others will notice. They'll sense a strange calmness in you, a kind of energy that doesn't get rattled by the outside world. You'll become less fragile, no longer easily swayed by words, rejection, or unexpected change. You become unshakable from within. And if you truly want to become resilient, knowing this isn't enough, you need to act on it. You need to train for it. And that brings us to Stoic rule number 5. Voluntarily embrace hardship to forge an unbreakable will. Resilience doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is built, day by day, hour by hour, through silent, unseen effort. Keep watching, because the next part will give you a powerful Stoic tool to stay in command under pressure. Before we continue, if this video speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Not just to support the content, but to make a commitment to yourself that you're not just watching this video, you're changing. Number 5. Practice voluntary hardship to build an unbreakable will. At the age of 24, Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist, was sent to the Nazi concentration camp of Auschwitz. In that living hell, where bodies and minds were brutally tortured, Frankl not only survived, he discovered something that would change millions of lives: the power within. Frankl wrote, "A man can endure almost anyhow if he has a why." What allows someone to keep a calm mind in the face of extreme suffering? The answer isn't luck or biology. It lies in a will that's been forged through voluntary discipline and hardship, what the Stoics call voluntary hardship. Today, most of us aren't in concentration camps, but we're trapped in a different kind of modern prison: excessive comfort. We can order food with a tap, turn on the AC with a voice command, and dodge any unpleasant feeling just by unlocking our phones. But it's this comfort that's making us weaker every day. Not physically weak, mentally weak. When life throws a storm, a job loss, a breakup, a failure, many people fall apart simply because they've never trained for adversity. The Roman philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" The Stoics didn't wait for misfortune to strike. They actively sought it out, not to suffer, but to harden the mind like steel. Building willpower isn't abstract. It starts with small, intentional discomforts. Taking cold showers in the morning, fasting 1 day a week, waking up at 5 a.m. to read or train, saying no to a familiar comfort that you know is making you soft. These aren't punishments, they are mental reps. Every time you push through a small discomfort, you send your brain a clear message: I'm in control, not you. Over time, that's how self-mastery is built, and self-mastery is the foundation of unshakable strength. The Stoics didn't fear hardship because they understood pain is a chance to adapt. Just as muscles don't grow without resistance, the mind doesn't mature without struggle. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, didn't live in an ivory tower. He ruled an empire while facing plagues, uprisings, and personal loss. Yet he wrote in Meditations, "If it happened, then it was meant to happen. And if it happened to me, then I was made to endure it." This philosophy mirrors the spirit of Jesus in the desert. Before beginning his mission, Jesus fasted for 40 days in the wilderness, faced temptation, was tested, and confronted every weakness of human nature head-on. Jesus didn't avoid suffering. He entered it fully awake, and that's what made him spiritually undefeatable. What's the takeaway? If you want to be strong, don't pray for an easier life. Pray for a stronger heart. Change the question from "How can I avoid suffering?" to "How can I become strong enough to handle anything?" That is the heart of Stoicism, and it is the invitation extended to you, the one watching this. Don't wait for life to punch you in the face. Step into a small furnace every day so that when the real storm hits, you won't be knocked down, you'll stand your ground. Number 6, detach from outcomes. Fall in love with the process. We live in a society obsessed with outcomes. From a young age, we are taught that our worth lies in what we achieve. A high-paying job, a perfect body, successful deals, applause from the crowd, or Instagrammable photos that rack up hundreds of likes. Every failure, every time results don't meet expectations, feels like a cut to our self-worth. And slowly, we begin to doubt ourselves. But the Stoics saw things differently. They understood a simple but powerful truth. The outcome is never yours to own. You can give your best effort, plan carefully, act with integrity, and still fail. That's life, not your fault. The only thing truly in your control is your effort, your discipline, and your presence in each moment of action. Think of Keanu Reeves, a Hollywood star, yet he lives like a humble monk. He's not only famous for roles like Neo in The Matrix, but also for how he faces suffering without letting it define him. Keanu lost his best friend, River Phoenix, to a drug overdose. Later, his girlfriend lost their baby during pregnancy, and not long after, she died in a car accident. Blow after blow, the kind that would crush most people. But Keanu didn't collapse. He didn't run from the pain, nor did he seek attention to fill the void. Instead, he kept working, kept living simply. He rides the subway, reads books, shares his earnings with film crews, and rejects the spotlight of celebrity life. He doesn't act for applause, but because he loves the craft. He's not chasing results. He's simply devoted to the process. That's what makes Keanu Reeves admirable. Not just because he overcame hardship, but because he refuses to let outcomes or pain define who he is. He is living proof of one idea. When you tie your self-worth to your actions, nothing can break you. What about you? Maybe you've started going to the gym, but after a week without visible muscle, you want to quit. Maybe you launched a startup and the first project failed. Now you feel like you don't have what it takes. Maybe you love someone and they didn't love you back, so you blame yourself. These reactions all stem from one root cause. You're measuring your worth by results, not by effort. The Stoics don't live like that. They write not to be read, but to clear the mind. They train not to win, but to master their bodies. They build not to be praised, but because it's the right thing to do. And that mindset is what makes you unshakable. Because once you detach yourself from the outcome, you can't be controlled by judgment, failure, or even success. You simply act with reason, discipline, and calm. No longer tossed around by wins and losses, you begin to live truly, true to your values, true to your path, true to every action in the present moment. And if you can do that, you'll notice something strange. The results will start to come as a bonus, not the goal. What do you think about this mindset? Have you ever suffered from placing too much expectation on the outcome? Share your story in the comments. You may not realize it, but your words might help someone else rediscover their resilience. Number 7. Embrace death. Live with urgency and purpose. We often live as if death is something distant, abstract, and irrelevant to the present. We postpone our dreams, tolerate toxic relationships, and waste hours scrolling through our phones without a trace of guilt. Deep down, it's because we still believe there's plenty of time. But that belief is an illusion, and perhaps it's the most dangerous illusion of modern life. No one knows how much time they have left. Yet instead of waking up, we live as if we're immortal. The Stoics didn't run from this truth. They faced death, not to despair, but to live more fully. The philosophy of memento mori, remember you will die, is not a threat. It's a wake-up call. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This isn't some abstract idea. It's a way of living, a powerful freedom that only comes when you truly understand. Every moment might be your last chance. When you embrace death as a natural part of life, you start to see things differently. You stop wasting time on meaningless arguments, stop delaying your dreams out of fear, and stop living to please people who don't even care about you. Instead, you start living with purpose. You act now without waiting for the perfect moment. You love without conditions. You work not for cheap recognition, but to create something of value, because you understand time is a loan, not a possession. We may not control the number of years we live, but we can absolutely decide how we live each day, each hour. And in that choice, we find freedom, a freedom no one can take from us. Living as if your time is borrowed changes you. You become more focused, more intentional, stronger. You stop chasing approval because you're living by your own moral compass. You go deep instead of wide. You choose quality over quantity, truth over convenience. The Stoics didn't just think about death. They used death as a tool to purify life. They dared to let go of ego, to speak honestly, to love fully, and to fail boldly. Because they knew these were the things that make a life truly meaningful. And you can live that way too. You don't have to wait for a crisis. You don't have to lose something to realize what matters. Right now, you can begin not out of fear, but out of understanding. Remember, each moment you're alive is the only thing you can truly count on. There is no later, no when I'm ready, no some other time. There is only right now. And if you've made it this far, if you've had the courage to look death in the eye and use it as fuel to live with intention, then rule number 8 is the final wake-up call you need. It points to something even more important than mental strength: virtue. Are you ready? Number 8. Be a warrior for virtue, not approval. Live for virtue, not recognition. That is the path of a spiritual warrior. In an era where a photo can replace character and a like can substitute real value, many are trading away their true selves just to be praised. They act not out of what's right, but what's admired. They don't live by principles, but by trends. Beneath the polished mask lies a fragile soul, constantly needing validation, constantly yearning to be soothed by the crowd's gaze. We are programmed to crave recognition. From a young age, we're praised when we're good, punished when we're not. As we grow up, social media reinforces that mechanism. Posts with more engagement are deemed right. Lives admired by many are considered beautiful. And so we dive into a never-ending spiral. The more we need to be seen, the less free we become. The more we crave acceptance, the easier it is to lose ourselves. But the Stoic does not live that way. To them, the crowd is not the standard. Recognition is not the goal. An action only holds value if it aligns with virtue, an internal compass that cannot be bought, swayed, or compromised. Virtue is courage, honesty, temperance, and integrity. Doing the right thing because it's right, not because someone is watching. That's a standard only the mentally strong can pursue. Not because you're performing on a stage, but because you choose to live transparently even when no one is watching. When you keep a promise without being reminded, when you speak the truth though it's unpopular, when you train in silence, that's when you reveal your identity. Not the identity the world hands you, but the one you build through right choices. Living this way isn't easy. It's lonely. It demands you go against the grain. It forces you to ask, if no one sees it, will I still do the right thing? But it's in those very moments that you are forged. Just as diamonds are formed under pressure, character is shaped under challenge. Each time you choose virtue over instant gratification, you sharpen your spirit, focus, resilience, unbreakability. There's a paradox here. When you no longer need the crowd, you become the one they follow. Not because you try to stand out, but because you're genuinely different. When you're unmoved by applause or criticism, you become an anchor in chaos. And those who've lost their way will turn to you, not to hear what they want, but to find what they need. An unshakable life is not built on fame, but on integrity. Integrity cannot be stolen, doesn't bend to public opinion, and doesn't shift with the times. It is the foundation that holds you firm, even when status, money, and titles fade away. And if you ever have to choose between doing the right thing in silence or doing the praised thing in front of a crowd, remember the words of Seneca: "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." Live for what you know is right without the need to prove, without the need to be seen. A powerful example of the spirit, live for virtue, not for recognition, is Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher widely regarded as the father of Western philosophy. Socrates didn't write books, didn't lecture in grand halls, and never chased fame. He walked barefoot, wore tattered clothes, and spoke with anyone he met, from slaves to politicians, for one purpose only: to find out what it means to live rightly. He was sentenced to death for corrupting the minds of the youth and disrespecting the gods. His friends begged him to escape, but he refused. He believed that running away would betray the conscience and the laws he had upheld his entire life. So he calmly accepted his death by poison, without bitterness or blame. Socrates did not live to be admired, but his unwavering commitment to virtue made him an eternal symbol, proof that when you live rightly, death cannot defeat you. You were not born to please the world. You were born to live with truth and become unshakable. And there you have it, 8 brutal Stoic laws that, if truly understood and practiced, can rewire your thinking and forge an unbreakable mind. From embracing discomfort to mastering your reactions, from focusing only on what you can control to accepting that life owes you nothing, these aren't feel-good ideas. They're hard truths. But the Stoics never promised comfort. They promised strength. Now ask yourself, which of these laws hit you the hardest? Which one do you struggle with the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. If this video made you pause, reflect, or see your problems differently, then do something about it. Hit the like button to let the algorithm know this message matters. Share it with someone who needs a mental reset. And subscribe for more no BS, Stoic-powered content that'll help you build discipline, resilience, and real inner peace. Remember, your mind is your fortress, but only if you train it like one. See you in the next one.